It's Rowan Alexander from Unicorn Business Solutions. Today I want to talk about an alternative pricing methodology for tradespeople, or really anyone that sells labour and materials for their core business. The truth is, 95% of tradespeople could go broke pricing the way they do, hitting their targets, doing what they see as very profitable jobs. And let me tell you why. I've got a couple of examples for you to choose from here. So we've got job 1 and job 2. It's pretty simple. I'd like you to choose one. So job number 1, the quote price, about $1,400. Job number 2, $2,500. Bit of a labour cost involved for each. And materials, pretty similar on both jobs. And then we've got a gross profit. One's $284, the other's $800. Gross profit percentage, one's 20%, one's 34%. So I want you to write down, or just make note of, which job you think you prefer. Now, I want you to think about if you were doing this job all year round. Right, chosen which job you want? Excellent, we've got 2 more. So bigger jobs this time. So one's 15, one's 60. We've got a labour cost associated, material costs. Obviously one job's much larger. Gross profit, one around 3,000, one 7. Now, gross profits percentages are a little bit smaller for these two. I want you to choose the job that, again, you'd like to do all year round. Now, I'd just like to point out right now, these jobs are priced in a traditional way. So we have a labour rate, like an hourly charge as such, which is standard across all 4 jobs. And we also have a standard markup on materials, which, again, is standard on all jobs. In fact, these 4 quotes have come from the same client. So now you've written down, made note of the 2 jobs that you prefer. We'll do a bit of theory. So what is gross profit percent? Some people get a little bit confused. Gross profit is the ratio between your gross profit and your income. So important thing to note, if labour is your business's limiting factor, and most trade-based or manufacturing businesses, this is the case, this measurement is inadequate because it does not include the time required to complete a job. And like I said at the start, this means you could go broke doing profitable jobs. What I wanted to talk about is an alternative method of pricing. So gross profit per hour. With gross profit per hour, we're talking about the gross profit generated per labour hour. You can use it as a key performance indicator or a KPI. Probably the biggest change to the traditional way of pricing is we don't look at labour costs. We don't include it in our calculation. Here's the formula if you want to work it out. Your gross profit from the job, excluding your labour costs, divided by the total hours it takes you to complete your job. That's your gross profit per hour. So let's look at those 4 jobs using this methodology. So a little bit of rearranging. We're going to get rid of the labour cost because we say it doesn't matter. Our gross profit is going to change, and we don't really care about the gross profit percentage because we don't think it's an accurate measurement. So we're going to insert some figures now. Instead of labour costs, we're going to change that to labour hours. So job 1, 6. Job 2, 20, etc. Now, the gross profit has changed because we've taken the labour cost out. Now, let's go back to those jobs and look at them again. You chose a job on the first couple of slides. All right. We'll go to job 3 and 4. Again, we're looking at the labour hours instead of the labour costs. And gross profit per hour, job 4, much higher. So what do most people do? Most people choose job 2 and job 3. And the reason is the gross profit percentage is higher. This is why businesses can go broke quite easily doing what they see as profitable work. I'll come back to that. So gross profit per hour can give you a competitive advantage. Will help you price competitively because you can choose the right jobs. So what I mean by that is that if you've priced a job, the gross profit percentage is 30% and you usually get 20, you're thinking that's an amazing job. If the gross profit per hour was very, very high, you could actually pull your price back a little bit win that work. It'll help you price competitively. For example, if you've got a quote and you've worked out the gross profit percentage and it's very low, maybe it's 10% and your average is usually around 20%. You're thinking about that job as a bad job. You're thinking that if I come down any cheaper, it's not worth doing. But to win the work, you have to price it at that. If you look at the gross profit per hour, sometimes it might have a very high gross profit per hour rate, which means you can make that a little bit cheaper. Your competitors won't want to go cheaper. You'll win that work, and then they're more likely to win the jobs that aren't as profitable. So by doing this, you can also see what sort of jobs you do are the right jobs, because if you get 10 of your jobs and you work out the gross profit per hour, you'll see they'll vary significantly. And because of that, you can select the right customers. So earlier I said you can go out of business doing what you think is profitable work, hitting all your targets, and winning what you see as good work. So let me just give you an example of a pretty small trade-based business. So they have fixed expenses, and that's your rent and office costs and wages, etc. A bit over 200,000, and then they have the wages for the trade people, the workshop people there. So the total expenses each year, 400,000. Some pretty basic numbers for trade-based businesses. Look at productivity, how many paid hours are available, and what the chargeable hours are for the year. So this is roughly 3 people, a bit over 3 people, 70% productivity, which is pretty solid. That's what they have to work with to cover their expenses. So let's look at job 2 and job 4. So job 2 was one of the lower profit per hour, and job 4 was the best. So let's see what happens if we spend all our time doing those 2 jobs. So with our total labour hours available, these are chargeable hours, our gross profit there, one, we have $470,000, and the second one, we have $390,000. It's a pretty big difference for a 3-person business. We've got $80,000 pure profit there. So basic profit and loss here. We've got the gross profit up the top, doing job 4 all year, $470,000, less the expenses, they're making a profit of $70,000. If they chose to do job 2 or similar jobs all year, their gross profit just under $400,000, their expenses were still $400,000, and they're making a small loss. So you would have heard stories about large businesses or large builders winning a big contract, and say make or break. And the reason why some people take on large contracts and then suddenly they go out of business is they see it as a profitable job. They've priced it up, the margin's good, they're getting their hourly rates. But because the job just takes so much time, they don't look at the gross profit per hour, and that's where they can get in that example with job 2, where they actually can't cover their overheads. In summary, this is why it's very important to use the correct pricing methodology and be aware of what small changes to pricing means for your business. If you'd like to find out more about what we do and how we can help, go to our website, unicornbusinesssolutions.com.au, and we can organise a free consult.